Hi. One of the hard things about having PTSD or complex PTSD is that it's very hard to actually articulate to someone who hasn't experienced it themselves what it's like to go through it. And therefore, we get told things like, oh, buck yourself up, oh, get over it, or oh, that happened a long time ago. Why on earth is it still bothering you? And it's incredibly difficult to try and help these people who haven't gone through it themselves, whether they're friends or loved ones, or even professionals sometimes, to see that, we're actually doing our best. And it's kind of beyond us that what we experience when we're triggered actually goes on. And it's got nothing to do with being lazy or being, not bothered to try and make it better. It has to do with the actual components of what CPTSD or PTSD is like to experience. So, if it's of any help to anybody, I'm going to read to you a piece that I wrote before I was actually diagnosed with CPTSD and didn't understand that what I was experiencing was actually the triggers from past trauma. All I knew was that every now and then the ground just shifted out from under me and I was sort of exploded into these terrible emotions and anxieties that took days and often weeks to get over, and that required sometimes strong medication to deal with the aftermath of the anxiety and fear that it caused. So I wrote this piece to try and make sense of what I was going through, almost to sort of explain it to myself so that I had some clarity. Looking back, I realized that I left out some important stuff because I hadn't at this time had the trauma therapy that helped me understand that not only was it the trauma of my abusive marriage that was causing this, but there was childhood trauma that I hadn't even recognized as trauma because I came from a very loving family and their abuse was totally unintentional, in that I was raised in a fundamentalist evangelical Christian sort of environment, very strict legalistic ideas about life, death, God's punishment. And this had a huge impact on me. So actually, even though I refer to my marriage in this piece, it goes back further for me. And I think many of us will find, as we have therapy, that what we think is the main trauma that we've experienced may actually go back way before that to things that may have seemed trivial or insignificant, but actually caused us trauma. And all these compounded layers are what CPT is about. Complex PTSD means many layers of traumatic events, usually when we have felt trapped or unable to escape the situation or have control over the situation. And to an extent, that is what childhood is, because we are lovingly, quite often, sometimes not, within an environment that we can't escape because we are kids and our parents are in charge. Anyway, I'm going to read this now, and hopefully you can relate. Hopefully it will enable you to see, wow, yes, that's what I experience. And now I can perhaps explain to those in my life better about what I'm going through. I've called it shell-shocked. I should feel free, at ease, now that the war is over, but I'm uncomfortable. Something inside of me is severed, and I find myself detached, without gravity, in a world where feet should touch the ground. For years I've worked through sweat and tears to keep myself attached, secured to reality, and I'm bewildered by how easily still the cord can be cut through to leave me yet again struggling for stability. When, with faltering steps, I do manage to walk on terra firma, there are words and phrases, often so innocuous, that impact me like landmines. They explode me into 1,000 pieces, and the scattered fragments of my mind can only slowly and painfully reassemble into someone resembling me. I need the halo trust to walk my roads and fields, diffusing half-buried weapons from past wars and make my world safe for me to live in. Years have passed since I left the bombed-out ruins of my marriage, and I've set up home where no one does me harm now. But all too frequently, the war breaks out within me, and I'm in no man's land again, caught on the wire in a waking nightmare. You see, because there is no one now to hurt me, I turn the knife myself, continuing a punishment others have convinced me I deserve. I'm trying to disarm, but I have a rigor mortis grip. It seems I'm reluctant, even frightened to let go. How strange to be so sabotaged by the working of my own mind. At these times, from the depths of damaged psyche, I turn against myself. Subconsciously convinced I am unworthy of contentment, I'm vulnerable to the tripwires that explode me, depositing me into tortured thinking. This state of mind is torment, and yet so much of me believes it is what I deserve. It's where I belong, and I more readily believe the lies ingrained within me than the truths spoken by professionals trained to know the difference. And so the grip I have on the stability I long for is tentative and fragile, and with each explosion it's thrown far from me, and I am left trembling in the trenches once again. PTSD and complex PTSD leave us bewildered by why it is we can't seem to stop it happening. But that's the nature of this beast, if you like. And it requires a good trauma therapist and the reading of good books on the subject, like Pete Walker's from CPTSD, from Thrive. I'll start again. Pete Walker's book, Complex PTSD, From Surviving to Thriving. I can't recommend that highly enough. It helps us understand ourselves and helps us explain to others what it is we're going through. It also helps us to see how we can heal. I recommend it highly. I hope in some way this has been helpful. If not, well, never mind. Thank you for listening. Take care.